Spot the lies, get to the truth, and avoid costly mistakes.
She is a truth and deception detection expert. Accurate body language is a key to cracking the code, unlocking the vault of nonverbal communication, and reveal the secrets of human interaction. With over 20 years of corporate business, marketing research, advertising, and strategic brand positioning, and clinical psychology experience, Janette specializes in understanding the complexities of human behavior, interpersonal relationships, verbal and nonverbal body language communication.
Psychology is everything. Sales is about psychology and persuasion and influence. That's where body language helps. When you can read the body language, if in your prospect you see discomfort or distress or disagreement, you can see that in the body and then connect with that person with strategic questioning to keep the rapport and the connection going to get that prospect to the yes. Body language helps in connection and rapport and understanding and aligning with your prospect.
7 global myths about liars.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that?
These are global myths. Around the world, people believe certain things about liars and they think that they're true. Truthful people can appear nervous and fidgety and sweat and blink a lot when they're nervous, which gives indication that they may be lying when they're actually telling the truth. I'm happy to cover the 7 myths. It was in a publication in Brains magazine. The first myth is whatever we believe our beliefs are based on facts, even though we did no research on it. We just read it on the internet or heard it from a friend or a cousin and we believe. Facts are based on if we have reliable sources that all point to the same conclusion. So when there's a belief that we think is true, that actually can be a myth because we grew up with that tradition, it's part of our heritage or stories passed on. So that's myth number 1.
How do you know when that person is making a myth up?
The 7 myths we'll talk about believable, extraordinary liars and what to look for. What we need to do is always do our research, our market research on whatever somebody is telling us. Get on Google and look up if it's backable with evidence. And there are a lot of people who believe and talk as if it's fact when they didn't do the research. So their bodies will be aligned because they themselves believe whatever they're saying. Like the sky is green. They may think that the sky is green. So their body is really aligned to their verbal statement even though it's not true. So there's a segment of people who truly do believe their belief is fact when, if you think about it, they didn't do anything to support their statement. But they hold on to it for death. And so many people, Garrett, have died based on their erroneous belief. And there's strong confirmation bias. They will only confirm what they believe. So we have to be careful about that and just do diligent research. There was a global study that showed how can you tell when people are lying? Over 11,000 respondents were surveyed. The number 1 answer to this question in study 1, how can you tell when people are lying, is eye aversion. Now, in America, direct eye contact is important, but in other cultures, not looking at the eye gaze may be expected and part of their tradition. Like the British royalty, if you and I were visiting the Queen, we may be disrespectful if we are looking at her directly. So it depends on your culture. But look, that's the number 1 reason for how can you tell when people are lying, and then it drops to nervousness, incoherent speech, and fidgety body movement, nervous body movement. Myth number 2 is people in our inner circle are trustworthy. Just because they're in our inner circle means that they have greater access to lie to you. That's what that means, because they see you more often, they're in your sphere of influence. It's like within a 50-mile or 100-mile radius, that's where we're going to have the most accidents because that's where we travel. So the people who are going to lie to you the most are people in your inner circle. So that's myth number 2. Myth number 3 is you would think that once people realize that somebody is lying, that they will align themselves with the truth. But that is a myth because so many people, due to human nature, don't want to rock the boat. They want to stay status quo, and so much of their identity is embedded in the group where they belong. So if they find out that a family member or the leader of the group or some corruption or deception is going on, it takes courage and bravery to stand up, speak out, and shine the light on the truth. And most people don't do that out of apathy, out of ignorance, out of not caring. And then the truth speakers are often discredited and destroyed because liars and corrupt people don't want the truth to be revealed. So they will do everything to destroy you. Most people go along with the lie because they don't want to change, they don't want to rock the boat, and they somehow get something from the lie. They get something from the exchange. Let's use Tiger Woods for an example. Tiger Woods' ex-wife may have wanted to save the marriage because of the kids, because he brings home billions of dollars. But he went out and pretty much had sex with so many people that could have endangered her life with what he is bringing home. So you see how in that case she wanted to keep the marriage going, maybe for the children, or he's the money bags, even though he was lying to her. So there was an exchange. There is some kind of value from keeping the lie. Number 4, lies are easy to detect. For me, they're easy to detect. If you flip an imaginary coin, okay, Garrett, put a quarter on your thumb. We're going to flip it together. Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, flip it, catch it, slap it down. Give me a call. Heads or tails? Heads or tails?
Heads.
Okay, I got tails. You look at it, heads or tails, Garrett, it doesn't matter because the percentage of you catching a lie around 50% when you're untrained. But when we were babies, we were body language experts before we could say words because we communicated with our world through nonverbal messages and what our senses took in and how our little brains interpreted that. If you think about it, babies at 6 months to 2 years can sign language easier before they can speak. And babies who are trained in body language and sign language have an advantage, a heads up in their verbal vocabulary because before they could say their first word, they associated this with thank you. So they were able to connect the symbolism with their body language to what they needed from their caregiver, their parent. Myth number 4 is lies are easy to detect. As we demonstrated, you have like a 54% chance of catching the lie. That's why a lot of people say, oh my God, I was blindsided. Guess what, Garrett? All those clues were right there. They just didn't understand it. They didn't perceive it. It went over their heads, or they turned a blind eye. They were always there. That's why I say the 4th myth is lies are easy to detect. Whenever I do my detect and decode body language classes, everybody in the audience gives themselves higher marks on how they can spot the lies. They think that they can catch lies better than they really do because once I show a case study, nobody gets the nuances before I do the analysis. They're astounded at what they missed. Well, a lot of it is they're just not trained to know what's right in front of them, and they're not paying attention, and they don't see the nuances that really signal very important information that they just don't understand what it all means.
So I know a lot of people say people have like more confidence in their actual reality of detect and awareness. What really drives that confidence? I heard so many people say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my body language skills are pretty good.
I can show them any video and have them analyze the video and type in, what do you see? What do you see, Mrs. Jones? Or what do you see, Steve? They can tell me what they see, and then I can play that same video again and tell them my analysis. And I bet money that my analysis will point out more than what they claim that they saw, that they didn't see, and now they're astounded at what was right in front of them. But that takes years of training because it's a language. If you and I studied French for 2 years in high school, Garrett, and we didn't speak any French, we would have to learn French again. And it might take us a few years before we feel confident again. So with practice and mastery, you can gain more confidence. If that person who says, well, I'm pretty good at spotting the lies, if they haven't studied body language and statement analysis and gone through the practice of it, then they're full of bullshit. That's what they're full of, bullshit. And I'll call them on it, bullshit. But that's good to have confidence. Overall, you have to believe in yourself, but back it up. It goes back to the first one. They believe that they're confident, but it's not based on what? Practice, mastery, and facts. Lies are not easy to detect when you are not trained. That's why I've really honed in and studied on my superpower, which is to detect and decode body language. Myth number 5. Liars can't look you in the eye. Remember when we were kids and our mom said, did you eat the cookie, Garrett? And no, Mom. And your eyes may avert. Some liars will divert eye gaze when they feel guilty and ashamed and know that their body language will reveal the tells. However, extraordinary, skilled, powerful, and pathological liars, Garrett, do not feel guilty about lying. They don't feel remorse about lying. They don't give a rat's ass whether they lie or destroy or corrupt and steal and cheat you, because their brains are different. They actually get pleasure and a dopamine rush when they dupe you. That's why there's a duper's delight smile. Lance Armstrong showed the duper's delight smile when he was interviewed by Oprah Winfrey. Oprah said something about his cheating. You got away with cheating. And he couldn't help but smile about that, because for years he was lying to all of us and got away with it and made millions of dollars and achieved millions of awards in cycling because he was cheating. It's an asymmetrical smile. It's a smirk because they know the truth and they got pleasure out of duping you. And skilled, powerful, pathological, extraordinary liars are so driven to their rewards, their high stakes rewards. And because they're high stakes, that they could possibly go to jail, lose their license, lose their wives, their husbands, their children, their house, their income, they will lie like hell so that you don't find out. Go like this with an upward thumb. When the stakes are high, then the lie is more likely. When the stakes are low, like in the game Two Truths and a Lie, if you were to tell me 2 truths and 1 lie, and it's a low stakes game like Two Truths and a Lie, it might be harder for me to point out which one is the lie because it means nothing to you. It doesn't mean anything. But if you were embezzling millions of dollars, then you see how your motivation to make sure that that's never uncovered is stronger. So then your body language will show more indicators of what you're not telling the truth about. And when you are trained in statement analysis and body language, you have the 1-2 superpower to get closer to the truth.
So you have a better percentage chance of detecting if it's big or a lie.
Yes, there's more to lose. And the liar takes greater risks, which means even breaking laws. They don't care about laws and tradition because those belong to peons. They have a superiority aspect because all of their life they've been lying and getting away with it and being rewarded by it, that they are driven to lie. Brain science, fMRIs, show that the brains of psychopaths are different. Their gray and white matter ratios are different, and the oxygen and the flow in the brain scans where they have empathy is different than like yours and my brain regarding empathy and remorse and guilt. So that's why liars can appear very truthful because they don't feel cortisol stress when they're lying. They don't worry about going to jail because they've broken so many laws and never gotten caught that they're not worried about it. So it's a myth that liars can't look you in the eyes. Skillful, extraordinary, and pathological liars may dead straight look at you, Garrett, because they're reading your body language and throwing you lots of lies that they want to make sure which lie is sticking with you. And number 6, liars will increase body movement and self-touch. Nervous people increase body movement and self-touch. Liars, especially skilled liars, They are so good at that. They
So
may
used
be
to it.
calmer, especially if they're psychopaths, but the body always reveals the truth. From head to toes, the body always reveals the truth. I did an analysis about Jussie Smollett, and that man was lying. He was hugging himself to self-assure. And look at this, Garrett, look at this. And he said, and the attack. You see how I'm smiling when I'm talking about the attack? If I was really attacked, Garrett, I would not be smiling like this. Attack and tussle. Yeah, we tussled. What? No! He jumped me, and thank God I was with Garrett, because Garrett gave him a high five, and then I stomped him on the head, and it was life or death. You see the difference?
Yes.
If you and I were really jumped, I stomped on his head, and I gave him a karate shot. I would not be saying, and I was attacked. And there was a tussle. So the tussle is a statement analysis word like, wow, two strange, burly, big, masked men jumped you, and you use the word tussle. So you see how that's a hot spot? And then with the smiling and attack. Man, I was attacked, Garrett. You see the difference?
Can liars be repetitive in their actions or words?
Yes, because they've had so many years of practice. Whatever we practice, we get good at. It takes being trained in body language and statement analysis to move you closer to the truth. Number 7, this is a myth. Liars will look guilty because of shame and remorse. Certain liars who feel guilty and ashamed will look guilty and ashamed, but there are so many experienced, skilled, pathological liars that don't feel guilty at all about stealing from you or lying or doing tax fraud or embezzling. Look at Bernie Madoff. He didn't feel guilty about lying and stealing billions from people. Jeffrey Epstein didn't feel guilty about harming young girls. So that's a myth that all liars look guilty. Yes, unskilled, ordinary liars may look guilty, but the skilled liars who are high-powered and driven to the rewards may look like truth speakers to the untrained eye. So what I help people do is bust those liars and bust those myths and really show how liars are. So I say, despite worldwide misconceptions about liars, there's only really a few indicators that reliably determine deceit. So here are liars and here are honest people. They're on the opposite spectrum of the deception scale, but skilled liars may look like truth speakers because they don't have remorse or guilt or shame about it. That's why some of them can pass lie detector tests. Because what do lie detector tests measure? They measure your physiological change when a question is asked. So if they're stone cold liars, they're not going to feel the stress of lying. And also, it's not a black and white. You're either a liar or a truth speaker. There are spectrums in both of those categories. So liars have a spectrum. You have, let's say, ordinary liars, like you and I may fall into the range of ordinary liars. And then as you move to skilled, mastered, extraordinary, and pathological and psychopath liars, where you have personality disordered or drug addiction. Drug addicts and gamblers and sex addicts are all liars because they don't want you to find out what they're doing. So you see, there's a spectrum. So not all liars are the same. They fall in that spectrum. So ordinary liars like you and me are going to look different than extraordinary liars, and surprisingly, extraordinary liars will kind of look like truth speakers. That's why it's so confusing. The global research showed that out of 11,000 respondents, they all came up with similar misconceptions of what liars are all about. What they don't take into consideration, Garrett, is what's happening in that moment. What is the motivation? There's a magic about deception and getting to the truth. M is for motivation. You've got to understand the motivation of the target. Let's say you and I don't do drugs and substances. So when we're looking at an addict, we're thinking, oh my God, why is this guy using again after 2 weeks of rehab? He's going to lose his license. He's going to lose his occupation. His wife is going to leave him, and the kids are going to be mad at him. and he's going to spend all that money, and he gambled away the family finances. It doesn't make sense to us because we don't understand the motivation of the addict. When you're an addict, the brain is impaired, that when you are suffering through the withdrawal, you have to get the substance to take the edge off, to not suffer the severe consequences. Once you understand the motivation, then their behaviors make sense. When we see it from our point of view, it doesn't make sense. Why are you going to risk all that and go use again or go have sex again? Your wife is going to leave you. But when you understand the brain and what's happening in the brain, then it makes sense. So M is for motivation. A in magic means ask strategic questions. So Garrett, if you are interacting with a new prospect and you see that prospect going like this is discomfort clues.
Yes.
So you may then say, hey Janette, I want to show you a couple of my new products, and have me hold the new products. Let's say they're tumblers. Yeah. You want to redirect the nervousness so that they're holding something, or you're pointing to a portion of the contract to get them out of their distress body language.
Then would you ask them about like their feelings in that situation?
Depends on the situation. If you are a therapist, yes, you may want to talk about the feelings. It depends on what you're talking about and the individual. If it's going to be too distressful or too sensitive to ask, what are you nervous about? You can use your other options to get around or to break them out of that. Like if you saw me do this, you might say, hey Janette, I want to show you our awards on our wall. So get me up out of my chair, then walk with me, because walking and talking is better than sitting. And you may walk me around the courtyard and then engage with me to get me to reveal more information to help me feel better. Change the environment a little bit. The G, we talked about motivation. We talked about ask strategic questions. The G in magic is look at the gestures. What kind of gestures are you seeing? So in our example, I was pretending to fiddle with my fingers. So you may offer me a cup of coffee or a cold beverage to get me out of playing with my fingers. So you're noticing the gestures, and does it make sense in the moment of what you're talking about? Do my gestures make sense regarding the subject matter? I, in magic, is you then are investigating what could be contributing to the gestures. Let's say you notice, Garrett, that all of a sudden I'm blinking a lot more. So you may say, and because we're friends, you may say, hey Janette, after I ask that question, I'm noticing that you're blinking more. Now, we're friends, so you might feel comfortable asking me that instead of a stranger. So I might reply, oh Garrett, I just did LASIK surgery and my eyes are a little dry. So that's what I mean about investigating. Or I have something in my contact and I'm trying to get it out. So you diplomatically investigate what could be contributing to what you're seeing in the body language. And then C is clustering the clues. Because one gesture is only one gesture. If you only saw my eyes blink and nothing more, that's only one piece of the puzzle. You've got to cluster more pieces. Remember when we were kids, Garrett, and we did puzzles? Okay, pretend like there's a whole bunch of puzzle pieces right in front of us. So grab a handful of puzzle pieces. Look at the pieces. Let's say you got 10 pieces and I got 7 pieces. If we start clustering the pieces, some pieces may fit together, or all 10 had nothing to do with one another. So the more pieces that you cluster together, the greater and the clearer the story will be once you cluster the puzzle pieces symbolically.
So if they have like more, let's say they have more, right? Could that mean it could be a bigger line? And contrary to it, they have like, let's say less, it could be maybe just a small line.
Yes, it depends on whatever you're talking about and how it's triggering that individual. I like to say the ABCs of lying. A, let's draw A in the air. A is the antecedent. So let's say you say to me, so Janette, I shared with you our proposal and we can get started on that. It'll be a $25,000 commitment. And then all of a sudden you see me blink. The antecedent might be the $25,000 commitment, and then you see this. But you want to see, what else am I doing? Am I doing this? Am I distancing from you? Are my toes starting to point to the door? If you were clustering all those clues, that might tell you, something I just said is making Janette a little uncomfortable. So that's the A, antecedent. B is the behavior. Blinking a lot. Fidgeting is another one. And my toes pointing to the door are 3 behaviors that you notice changed from my baseline right before you said the $25,000 commitment. C is you're clustering my clues. The blinking, the fidgeting, and the toes are indicating to you that I'm uncomfortable, so you're going to try something else to keep me connected.
In the situations, would you want to soften up the questions where it makes them relax more, or investigate depending on the situation?
It all depends on the situation. If you want to keep me engaged and build the rapport and get my business, you may invite me to walk and talk, so it takes the heat off. Then you've got to navigate your interpersonal skills to have me open up and find out what my objections might be. Garrett, I really want to take your class or your training, but right now I don't have the $25,000. Then you might say, thank you for letting me know. What can we do to make it more feasible for you? We can offer installments, or we can have you go through a shorter amount of time, and then you can reevaluate if you want to go through the rest of the program. You're very good with interpersonal skills, Garrett, so it all depends on the moment. So M is for motivation, A is for ask strategic questions, G is look at the gestures, I is investigate the intel, and C is clustering the clues. And to recap on the 7 myths, once again, beliefs are based on facts. That's a myth. We believe what we believe. Myth 2, inner circle people are trustworthy. That may or may not be true. Myth 3 is once people realize a lie, they will align themselves with the truth. Not always. It might be just easier just to go along with the lie because you're getting something out of it. Number 4, lies are easy to detect. Only with body language training. Myth 5, liars can't look you in the eyes. Insecure or nervous or guilty feeling people may not be able to look you in the eye, or respectful people may not look you in the eye. 6, liars increase body movements and self-touch. Not necessarily. And not all liars feel guilty. They actually feel entitled and smug about it for extraordinary liars. They've had their whole lifetime practicing, and they have gotten away with so much deception throughout their lives that it becomes a dysfunctional habit. That why would they break that when there are rewards to lying for extraordinary liars? That's why they are compelled to lie, because of the high stakes rewards.
I love it. So I think this is super helpful for me and for our audience as well.
How do you think these skills can be beneficial to you and your audience in both personal and business interactions with others?
I think in everything, personally, whether it's couple, whether it's your friends, it's right there. Like,
it's right there.
It's
right there.
It's like, why didn't they see it? Come on, man. It's like right there on the TV.
Exactly. That's why we flipped that imaginary quarter. You don't know what you don't know. The magic of body language, motivation, ask strategic questions, notice the gestures, investigate the intel, and C, cluster the clues. And the A, B, C's of body language, antecedent, behavior, and the clues, clustering the clues.
It definitely has. Thank you so much, Janette. It's been always such a pleasure to talk with you and learn with you.